George Galloway has issued a blistering rant urging Boris Johnson to hold his nerve against Brussels as his self-proposed Brexit deal deadline approaches. George Galloway urged Boris Johnson not to cave into EU pressure at the last minute, as Brexit talks head into a crucial few days. Mr. Johnson had previously set himself a deadline of October 15 to reach a deal with the EU, otherwise the two sides should both move on. In a furious rant, Mr. Galloway warned that there would be hell to pay if the Prime Minister sells out Britain's fishing communities in an attempt to reach a compromise deal. Mr. Galloway spoke during his latest talk show Moats Extra, available on to subscribers on Patreon. He explained, that deadline may just be negotiation posturing, since it is in both sides' interests to make an agreement. But I think there is widespread support in Britain for the view that if they want make a deal, we will just have to make the best of no deal. There are some gains if there is no deal. There is no divorce payment, if Boris holds his nerve. That saves us £40 billion. The former British MP turned to fisheries, which is one of the remaining obstacles in the Brexit trade talks. He said, what these EU negotiators are demanding is continued access by industrial trawlers hoovering up the fish off our coast, even though we are no longer in the EU. One of the points of Brexit was that we take control of our own land and our own waters. This industrial-scale fishing from the Netherlands and the French is actually destroying the stock in our waters. We need a break from that. Mr. Galloway added a final warning, Britain has more than 7,000 miles of coastline, I believe. That is a lot of coastal communities. If the Tories sell them out to the EU, there will be hell to pay at the ballot box. Mr. Johnson spoke with EU Presidents Ursula von der Leyen and Charles Michel last night ahead of this week's Crunch EU summit. A Downing Street spokesman said, the leaders discussed the latest state of play of the negotiations on our future relationship with the EU, ahead of the October European Council. The Prime Minister noted the desirability of a deal, but expressed his disappointment that more progress had not been made over the past 2 weeks. Mrs. von der Leyen told Mr. Johnson that the EU wanted a deal, but not at any price. Downing Street said that Mr. Johnson will decide on the next steps for post-Brexit trade talks after the EU summit this week.